Hello, and welcome to another episode of Living in My Mind. I'm Dennis Henning, and I'm your host. And today's topic is something that many people hear about, many people talk about, but many people don't want to talk, and many people don't want to hear about it. It's pornography and mental health, the effect that it has on us. I myself am a sex addict. I myself have destroyed part of my life, relationships, finances, situations that have been created that have affected me, that have affected other people. I wanted to share this with people because many people don't realize that there's people like them. Many people think about people who are sex addicts. They think of the dirty people. They think that people who are predators. They think that people who are someone they don't want to be around. Being a sex addict doesn't mean that you're always having sex. That's not the point of it. Obsessed with it? Yes. Am I obsessed with sex? Yes. It's on my mind 24/7. I will not lie. Do I act out on it? No, I don't anymore. But the emotional toll it's taken on me over the years has been astronomical. It's been extraordinary. It's been devastating. It's really something that's very difficult. I'm going to be very graphic about the addiction I've had in certain things. So if it's something you're interested in, fine. If not, then you might want to turn the channel or listen to something else, maybe some Lawrence Welk, make it a little bit easier. My sex addiction started when I was in my early years, when I found magazines. I'd go to a store, I'd look at the naked ladies, and I loved it. Then I'd go to the stores, I'd put the magazine inside of a Sports Illustrated. I'd get caught at stores, get asked to leave. As I got older, it got worse. When I was in high school, never really had any sexual relationships until basically my last year in high school, then started afterwards. And the pleasure of sex physically is amazing for any of us. If we allow ourselves to feel what we want and enjoy what we want, that's the important thing. And there's one thing we all have to realize is if we're with others, it's always consenting. You know, you don't do anything or coerce anybody or persuade someone or manipulate someone. That's not what this is about. This is about finding people in your life who are like you. So many times I found many women in my life who liked what I was into. I'm into bondage. I'm into rough sex. I'm into role playing. I'm into control issues when it comes around sex. I love sex. I love to please. Having someone please me is very difficult because of the issues I've dealt with my body image issues and my lack of insecurity about myself when it's come to those issues, thinking someone's not attracted, thinking this, thinking that. Then you take into consideration, I'm a Scorpio, and Scorpios are very sexual people. So there's a lot of combination that goes on in your head, and you realize when you don't like yourself, what's one of the things you do? You numb yourself. I've numbed myself for years. It was food, sex, gambling, a lot of different things in that respect. But when it came to the sex, it was easy to find. It was easy to go enjoy. It was easy to find partners. One thing that's interesting, many people who are involved with someone who's a sex addict, now I'm not talking about the sex addict, I'm talking about, say, if you have a partner, girlfriend, husband, boyfriend, whatever you're into, a lot of them thinking, my God, this person really loves me. This person wants to have sex with me. There's a big difference between sex and being intimate. Remember that. There's a big, huge difference between making love and having sex or just fucking. So a lot of times, those of us who are sex addicts, we don't take into consideration the mental health issues that could affect another person because we're always wanting sex or we're doing things that are sexual, talking sexual. And those are things that we really have to look at. It's a gratification and a satisfying thing to be able to talk to someone, enjoy someone, text them something sexual, have them say something back sexual. It doesn't mean it's ever going to happen, but it just keeps you going. It makes you feel good about yourself. My sex addiction has lost me jobs. My sex addiction has almost gotten me arrested. And when I say that, it's not because I did anything bad with someone, but I've had sex in public places, in cars, in restaurants, in movie theaters, in other venues, and I've gotten caught. And each time people got upset, blah, blah, blah. Twice the cops were called. I got out of there before the person I was with. So when you're in your addiction, you're willing to push it to the limit. And at those times, I didn't care. And I didn't realize the ramifications that could happen afterwards because I never thought about them. I wanted immediate gratification. I wanted to please myself or please the person I was with. I always made sure that whoever I've been with in my life has a very high sex drive like I do. So therefore, we can enjoy each other. Learning what that woman wants is the most beautiful thing for me because then I can enjoy her learning what I want. It's nice if someone's interested in that. But many times when you're an addict, such as I am with the porn, it really overtakes your life. It's when I was younger, I'd masturbate 7, 8 times a day. I'd masturbate to the point that I would bleed and it would hurt so bad, but I kept doing it. I'd masturbate in restrooms. I'd masturbate in public places, not around people because that's never anything I was into, but it was just something I needed to do for me. That release was beautiful physically and emotionally. And then when I was done, 10 minutes later, I wanted to do it again. Porn, many people take a look at porn and think, okay, it's a dirty industry. It's dirty because it's films. It's against God. It's against religion. It's against morals. There are many people who look at porn and learn how to be intimate because there is some wonderful porn out there, or X-rated or soft porn that really helps you if you're self-conscious, if you don't know anything about sex. I think that's one of the worst things about this country. There's not a lot of sex positivity. Educating. A lot of young men and women don't know anything about sex, so they learn through porn. A lot of men in their 20s and 30s now, I interview a lot of men and women in the work that I do. And when it comes to sex, many of them talk about the sex as if what they're doing with the person in real life should be done from what they've done with someone in porn. They see the porn and think that's the way it is, and it's not the way it is. Let me tell you, it's not. Because many times people don't realize porn is staged. Men use different things to make sure they have erection for a long time. They take a break. If you watch porn, it's very interesting. It's not like it's people having sex, just an intimate situation. There's lights, there's cameras. They're making money. They're doing their thing. They're selling you what you want and what you need at that moment. Strip clubs. Strip clubs are great for people who like to go. The visuals are phenomenal. I know many men who go to strip clubs and actually think they're going to go home with someone. Some of the best psychologists, and I don't mean licensed, are strippers that I've met. They know what to say, how to say it, when to say it, where to say it. They make their money and they go home. A lot of things are perception. My sex addiction to this day lives with me. I go to bed at night thinking about it. I think of scenarios with different people in my life, what I'd like to do, what I want to do. The interesting part with me, I haven't been with someone, I already know the date, August of 2018, because I learned that I can have an intimate relationship with someone physically and emotionally. I have that one time in my life if I've ever known that I've made love, actually had a mental connection and a physical connection at the same time. It was one of the most amazing things. Will I ever have it again? I don't know, because I don't know if I'll ever have that emotional connection. So I've had that and I know what it is. But the porn addiction, looking at porn all the time, it's very difficult because once you start looking at porn, you become numb. There's so many different categories that are out there. You have lesbian, you have three-way, you have gangbangs, you have MILFs, you have DILFs, you got teen, you got group, you got orgy, you have different culture, you have Hispanic, you have African American, you have Asian, you have different country. I mean, there's so many categories. You have he-males, she-males, everybody. You have whatever's out there, whatever turns you on. The biggest part is whatever turns you on, many times we don't share with other people because we're afraid we're going to be judged. It's an amazing feeling when you tell someone what you like and they're like, well, I like that too. It's amazing if you're going to be with someone, boundaries are important. If you're going to be with someone and you like rough, you like bondage, you like certain types of sex, always talk about it. Have boundaries, have safe words, all those different things. But when sex occupies your life so much as it's done mine for years, it ruins everything. The difference between an addict who uses drugs, who uses alcohol, gambling, still a lot of the same things happen to us, the mental health issues. You become lonely. You become isolated. You start to hate yourself. You start to think nobody likes you, nobody loves you, nobody wants you. So what do? You watch porn, you make yourself feel good, you fall asleep. An orgasm's amazing. It exhausts you mentally and physically. Many people, right when they're after, a lot of men, boom, go to sleep. A lot of women can have more endurance. A lot of men too, not taken away from that. But there's all that workup, all that for a short period of time to have an orgasm, and then it's over, and then you start again. When I was in the middle of my sex addiction, the hours I would spend finding someone, going to strip clubs, escorts, all the anticipation, it was so exciting. Then when the sex was over, or the situation ended, whatever it was, I was still depressed. I was still suicidal. I thought to myself, and I still think to myself sometimes today, God damn, I got to pay for people to be in my life. But the reality is I pay for people to go away because I get what I want, they get what they want. Now, that's something that many people don't like, many people don't hear. Well, I think in this world, in this country, throughout history, women have been used and lied to and cheated and manipulated when it comes to sex. If a gift is involved, whether it's money, whether it's a trip, whether it's clothes, I see nothing wrong with that. As long as you feel good about yourself, who cares? Because think about it. If you're in a relationship, you have a title, but you're still doing the same thing and getting treated the same way. There's so many different outlets for those of us who deal with porn addiction. One of the things is we have to really look at what does the porn do for us? It lets us hide. It lets us dissociate. It lets us run away from everything. It also tells us, well, gee, I don't have to be emotionally involved with another human being and get hurt, be abandoned, mistreated, lied to, used, all those things that could happen in a real relationship because porn isn't real, no matter what any of us think. It's just not real. It's a product. It's been around since the beginning of time, just in different forms, just in different ways that people look at it. You have politics that get involved with porn. You have religion that gets involved with porn. You have cultures that get involved with porn. You have people who say that certain cultures are more sexual and more spicy, certain sexual things other people are willing to do because of their culture. Really? I've been with many different women, many different cultures, many different backgrounds. Some enjoy certain things, some don't. One of the big things that I believe from my experience in talking to a lot of people, your sexual views are also based upon how you're brought up with your family. If your family is very against sex and say it's bad until you're married, whether it's kissing, whether it's touching, whether it's oral sex, whether it's being fingered, whether it's getting a hand job, all these simple things that people do now. The word simple, when I say, is simple to a person who's doing it. I did a talk at a high school years ago, and I was blessed to have a psychologist, a gentleman with me, and a therapist. This was in the state of Mississippi. And it was a very interesting school. Most of the families there were high-tech families, a lot of wealth. We asked a question, and one of the young ladies stood up and said that, she was a virgin. We talked about sex. It was really interesting. But she said that her and her friends, the one thing that they've learned, that if you have anal sex, you're not losing your virginity. And since that, I was like, okay, listen to her. The female therapist that was there, we talked to everybody. It was really an interesting conversation. They were told that. They all came from high Christian valued families and this and that. They felt nothing wrong with it. And there wasn't anything wrong with it. If you're under 18, that's a whole different story. We're not talking about that. Now, I've come across many women as I got older who have the same belief system that they would do anal sex because it's not losing their virginity. It's not against the Bible. It's not against their family. They don't want anybody to look at them bad. Remember, when you don't do something that you need to do for you or want to do for you because of your family, because you're afraid that someone's going to find out, you're afraid that you're going to be judged, you're afraid you're going to be labeled, what happens when you finally do it? You go crazy? When I say go crazy, I mean you just start doing it with anybody and everybody. You just start enjoying it. Then you're like, what did I do wrong? I can't believe I haven't done this in years. Then you put yourself in a position to where you're constantly going to need that gratification. Learn about sex. Talk about sex. If your parents aren't willing to talk to you about it when the time is right, find someone you can talk to. Don't just take the first thing you were ever told or taught about sex as this is what sex is. This is what intimacy is. There's certain religions out there that only have sex to procreate. If you're going to do that, then that's fine for you. There's certain religions out there that say you should never use any type of birth control. It's against God. It's against this. Really? Again, I'll go back to Bibles. Stories are written by men controlling things. The most important thing that I can share with people about a porn addiction, when I say porn and sex, same thing but different. The porn addiction is watching porn, getting off on porn, having it on your social media, driving in the street, watching it on your phone, having it on your computer, it's at your work. Nowadays, if you're watching something and you have it on anything that's involved with work or anybody else can get into it, you could lose your job. You could be accused of something, harassment, being a predator if another person sees it, if a woman sees it and you're watching it. There's so many things you have to be aware of and be careful of. I'm not telling you how to live your life. If you want to take those chances, do. But it becomes an obsession to where you close yourself off from others. Then when you engage in someone and you don't get that feeling that you get from porn, then you're not going to interact with other people. You're going to isolate. You're going to say, well, gee, I can enjoy the porn. I can enjoy myself. I can do this. I can do that. I can watch the same thing. Now, believe me, I've watched porn for a year. Very little new porn out there. It's an obsessive thing with me. It's difficult at times. I still do look at it. I try not to. I've done great with it. I don't look at porn as a way to learn how to have sex. That's just never how I've done that. I've learned on my own. I've taught myself what I like. I've learned how to do things, and I paid attention to the women I'm with. That's the most important thing to me. But I love sex. I could do it every day, but I know if I did it every day, unless it's with one person, and I've never really had that type of relationship except one time in my life, and I've mentioned it before on a couple other things. It lasted for 4 years, and it was wonderful being with one person because we enjoyed everything. A lot of things were crazy in our life, but the sex part was really wonderful, and you could feel things. But the biggest part is, if you're in a relationship that's based off sex, what do you have? You have an opportunity for what? In my opinion, nothing. I talk to a lot of people that the first person they ever had sex with, that's who they're in a relationship with. That's who they're going to marry because they gave their virginity, male or female, because they were told that's what you need to do. They were miserable in everything else in life. I truly believe there's nothing wrong if you have someone you want to enjoy physically, enjoy them. You have multiple people, enjoy them. Be honest, be safe, but don't put yourself in a situation to where it's going to affect you mentally or somebody else. Don't be selfish. Don't be manipulating other people. Don't be maniacal. And another thing about sex, whatever your issues are, they're your issues. If you have fears, or if you don't like something, or you think it's wrong, don't judge other people. I always tell people, unless you've tried it, don't judge it. You don't know. I would never judge. I would never judge someone. I don't care what they do, whether they're in porn, whether they want to do a gangbang, whether they've had multiple partners, straight, bisexual, he's male, she male. I've met them all. I've had situations where I've met many different people. I don't have the right to, because once I'm judging you, that means I'm judging myself. If you really look at how judgment is, in my opinion, sex is a beautiful thing, but don't ignore what you like. There's an intimacy fun. There's a teasing fun. There's cuddling. You don't have to actually have intercourse to have sex to me. If you have a great sex life, you don't have to have intercourse in order to have an orgasm. There's massages, there's ways to dress, there's role playing, there's multiple partners, there's clubs you can go to, there's ways you can learn, you can read books, anything that you need. Don't hesitate to do it. Because at some point, and I've learned this with every addict, doesn't matter what the addiction is, when we stop doing something for all the wrong reasons or because of fear or what have you, and we try it again, we go overboard. Now, drugs and alcohol, they've got rehab centers. They have treatment for that. They have treatment for sex addiction too. But here's the thing. People say, well, okay, if you relapse what is relapsing when you have a sex addiction? Is it masturbating? No. Is it watching porn? Depends on what the most important thing to. If you're going to 100% say you're not going to, then figure out the reasons why. Look for something to replace it. That's the most important thing to me, is replacing what that pleasure would be emotionally or physically with something else. It's never going to be equal. I can guarantee you that. And I'm not saying any other addiction is not important, because they are. A lot of times you'll find people with multiple addictions. They don't even think about it. I was talking to someone earlier today. Had a young lady come into a treatment. She was 19 years old. First time she'd ever had sex was with the boy she was with. Started at 15. Started talking to her and everything. She was masturbating different places in the facility, different times of the day. So they sat her down and talked to her. And it was like she felt no problem with it. Well, the boyfriend, first thing she'd ever seen was porn. He had her reenact porn. Now, that's abuse to me. We talked to the young lady. It took a while. She understood the same thing. A lot of people out there, they're basing their sex life off of other people, off of pornography. Now, if you're watching pornography, it's bondage, and that's the first thing you see, and that's the first thing that turns you on, you probably aren't going to get excited just having any other type of sex. Controlling someone, the reality is there are people out there that control. There are people who like to be controlled. Give up that control when it comes to intimacy, when it comes to sex. Always be careful. But when you're basing what you like off of pornography, because that's what you're brought up on, and social media plays a huge part. Anybody could be on social media and find anything they want. That's the sad part. That's the really sad part. Kids are watching it at many different ages. Kids are growing up mentally a lot faster than they have in years in the past without the social media. But can you blame social media? I don't know. You could always find something to blame. This is a country, I've never lived in any other country, so we can always find something to blame rather than take responsibility. My sex addiction to this day has numbed me in many different ways. It's numbed me to feel for other people at times. It's numbed me to care emotionally. It's created depression. There's nights where I've spent crying. There's nights where I've spent waking up having these horrible dreams about what would happen if I'm doing something with someone and I got in trouble. There's many things to sex addiction now. I've lost money. I've lost jobs. It's because I was obsessed with it. I've worked multiple jobs. I've done criminal activity to make money to feed my sex addiction. And one of the things about me, I've always been one of those people that wants to take care of somebody because I always fear someone's going to leave me. There's reality. It's a hard thing to say, hard thing to want to admit to, but I've always feared that. And then I'll just keep that person in my life, just keep them in my life. And knowing that I'm going to text for them, the reality is I know it's situational for many because it's situational for me. But at the same time, I know I'm a caring and giving person, whatever Pearson is, same thing, to other people, especially when I'm in a relationship or I'm spending time with a female. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I myself have to realize that I'm situational to them. No one wants to think that, we're just there for someone to basically fuck us or fuck us whenever they want or use us, male or female. I talk to guys. I'm always amazed when guys talk about one-night stands, macho and stuff. I talk to many men who are devastated after a one-night stand because the woman's never contacted them back, never sent them a text message. And the same thing with women. Even though you both agree, my favorite thing when I was with women in the past in many different situations, a one-night stand, many would look at me and say, have you done this before? It's a one-night stand. We just met each other. I don't even want to know your name. So I knew that there was going to be more involved. I could care less if you were in a gangbang yesterday. That's your life in the past. I'm being honest. Your life with me is completely between us. Many men judge women based on their past, which I find pathetic. There's a guy here in Los Angeles. I'll call him Jimmy the Mooch. And all these women that are in his life, after a certain amount of time, he wants to know how many guys they were with, who they were with. Are the guys that are their friends, have they ever been sexual? Number one, because he's extremely insecure. Number two, he's a sociopath. And number three, he's a pretty vile, pathetic human being. But then he tries to manipulate them, thinking that he's the person they need. And he's so insecure about himself that he has to make them feel bad about themselves. There's nothing to feel bad about if you've enjoyed yourself. If you're out there hurting people, if you're out there doing something wrong with someone, no, you shouldn't feel good. You should never feel bad about whatever number of partners you've been with. If someone said to me today, there's a beautiful lady, she's a virgin, she wants to be with you, I don't know if I'd ever want to be with a virgin. There's nothing against that. I think it's wonderful and beautiful. But last time I checked, I'm not going to be an educational teacher when it comes to actually doing it. I'll educate you on what I like, educate you on things you might not know about. But the reality is, many times people are affected by what other people think, and then when it comes to sex. Look how bad it is in this country when people want to come out and talk about being gay or being bisexual or transgender. People are knocking you down, punching you in the face, telling you you're worthless, telling you can't do this, you shouldn't be this, it's against the Bible. Last time I checked, God's the one who's made every human being. If you people out there don't think God made people who are gay, who are bisexual, who are transgender, who are whatever definition, really? Y'all talk about free will. Well, I think God helps with the good, and God is part of the bad. This is bullshit. God gave us free will to do what we want. No, people use free will as an excuse to judge, hurt people, put people down. That's just my personal opinion. Most importantly, to me, is for me when I realize that when I'm lonely, that's when I turn to watching porn, constant masturbation. Now, If you really know much about your body, an orgasm is great for male and female all the time. It gets your body going. It's a rush. There's so many beneficial things to having an orgasm. But again, when it affects you mentally, to where if you meet someone and that person's not into what you are, then you're depressed. You look for the next person. You don't take in consideration that person. Go slow. In my life, when it's come to everything, because of me with escorts or me paying, it's like, okay, we're getting together this way. You walk in the door, here's what we're doing. I'm not interested in conversation. I'm not interested in anything else. And I know that they were interested in the money. So it was an equal pay. But I didn't pay you for sex, actually. I paid you to leave. You came to me and you paid to leave as well. Because the money is what you wanted. You got what you wanted. And that's how the relationships have always been. Now, I also know I've got more involved. As I said before, the only person I've ever met in my life that I've ever loved got involved meeting her through a website. Admitting that still to this day is uncomfortable because I think, gee, that's all I could do is pay someone. But things change once you meet someone. And nothing against that person at all. I don't care what she did back then, prior to me. Nothing against me at all, but it's a way. We all meet in different situations. The mental health issues that come with porn are no different than the mental health issues that come with someone who's just depressed. The same symptoms. The same things happen to us. The same thoughts, suicidal thoughts. When I sit there and I think, gee, no one's attracted to me, so I got to pay them. What a pathetic human being. When I've worked hard, when I've lied to my family, when I've borrowed money, when I've stole money, just to feed the idea of having sex with someone. I could say I'm a pathetic human being. I've made pathetic situations. I've made pathetic choices, yes. But now I've learned that I am who I am. I have to work through these things daily. It might make some sense to some people. It might make no sense to some people. Because think about it. I believe there's two things in this world that are free. Air, thank you, Jesus, unless you're wanting to go to some ritzy air bar. And the other is sex. Everybody always says that women have sex with who they want, but men marry who they want. Pretty interesting, can be real. But the reality is any of us can have sex with whoever we want because there's always somebody there for us. To what degree, to what engagement, to how long it will last, who knows? We live in a society where social media just makes everything about sex. Sex sells everywhere. Look at how much advertising's out there. Films, television, everything's out there. It's fine, but understand boundaries. Create boundaries with yourself. Learn that if you're addicted to porn, if that's something that just gets you crazed, and when I say crazed, I mean excited, looking forward to seeing it, going home, isolating from people, whether you do it in your bed, you do it in your bathroom, you do it in your car, you do it behind locked doors, and wherever you want to do it. Think about what you're doing at the moment. I realize I jeopardized myself so many different places that I could be in jail. I could have lost my life. I'll never forget one of the most frightening situations. I had met someone online. This is in my hometown, Sacramento. I went to an apartment, made an exchange of money. I used a bathroom and came out, and there were these two large men. And I looked around, I looked at the lady, and the lady walked out the door. One guy pulled a gun on me. I want all your money. I want your jewelry. First of all, I don't wear jewelry. I emptied all my pockets. I was smart enough not to take anything with me. And by the grace of God, I walked out of there. You know what I did? 5 minutes later, I went on the same website and I met somebody else at 9 o'clock that night. Not the brightest move, but I needed what I needed. I wanted what I wanted. I was pissed. But then I also took back in my mind, I thought, okay, well, I put myself in that situation. So make sure if you're going to do these things, and if you're a young lady that's an escort, don't meet people at hotels, some shady hotel. Let people know where you're going. People are going to say, well, what kind of vice is that? What are you promoting it? No, I'm promoting safety. And if you're a guy, look, I've had sex in alleyways at 3 o'clock in the morning in New York, Los Angeles. I've had sex in places that I could have been jeopardized, my life. But I didn't care at the moment because I was getting something like any addict. You want what you want. When you want it, then we'll deal with the ramifications afterwards. Sex is a beautiful thing. We can abuse it just like anything else. Now, there's a difference when it comes to drug addiction because a lot of the drugs people take are illegal. None of those. There's a lot of legal, too. The legal ones do help to a degree, but when you abuse them, it becomes an addiction. An addiction is when it gets in your life And it takes away from you being happy. It takes away from doing things that are joyous. It takes away from finances. It takes away from family. It takes away from anything that's good. When we convince ourselves that this is what we deserve, and I've convinced myself for years, maybe that's what I deserve, to have to pay somebody. Maybe it's what I deserve is just to watch porn for the rest of my life and not have that into me. Because then here's what happens. Many times I've been with someone after my addiction to porn was so high that I got bored. It wasn't about the young lady. I just got bored. I don't ever want anybody to feel as if you're bored with them. Remember, sex is so intimate that if there's a situation and you can't get aroused or you don't do something for the woman, or if you make a comment about the woman's body, that could devastate them. I don't understand this myself in a way because women don't realize how they can devastate a man making a comment about the size of his manhood, so I don't have to be too graphic, or making this comment about his body. Men make comments about women. You're misogynistic, you're a pig, you're pathetic. Women do it all the time. Remember, validate the men in your life, whether you're straight, gay, bi, whatever you go by. Validate the other person as much as you need that validation. It doesn't hurt when someone tells you how good you look. Just a compliment or send you a text telling you. Doesn't hurt at all. I wanted to share this to let people know that this is real. It's something I still go through. It's something that I fight on a day-to-day basis, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, to be honest. I've got great tools. I've got great ways to look at this and understand it. Then there are days where I cry myself to sleep after I've watched porn and masturbated because it's devastating. Then I wake up the next morning. I try to forget it, but I also know it's there. There's the residual in the back of my mind. I wanted to let people know here's an opportunity for you to realize there are people like you, that you have choices, that there's ways to get help, talking with the right people. Remember, many times we go to our friends who don't have answers. Many times our friends are judgmental. Another thing is, many times our friends are just like us, do the same thing. They will never tell you, but they will make you feel less than. You don't need people like that in your life. What you need to do is love yourself, take care of yourself, whatever loving yourself means. Don't torture yourself. We're all going to make mistakes. Look at what the situation is. If you tell yourself, 100% I can't do this, if you do one little bit of it, you're going to devastate yourself and go backwards. I just wanted to share this. You can always call or text, get hold of me. There's great places I work with that can help. I can always share my story, but I want to thank you for listening. This is Dennis Henning, Living in My Mind. Have a beautiful day, and remember, you're not alone with any of these issues you deal with. And if you think you are, that even makes it worse.